What's happening, family? Listen, I want to share a thought with you that I have been blessed to celebrate on my own. Psalm 11, a psalm that was written when David was probably in the throes of dealing with King Saul, when his life was in jeopardy. He was in hostile territory. And in the first verse of that psalm, he makes this statement: I have already run to the Lord. And then he uses that as a counter to say, so why in the world would I be afraid of anything else? There are at least four things you can grab out of this psalm as you break it up in its context. The first thing David says, though, is that I've already run to the Lord. And he uses that to say, so why would I run from anything else? A powerful thought. When you have given God your full attention and your full mind, and you know that that God is in control of your entire life, why in the world would you run from anything else if I've already run to Jehovah? But then the second thing you notice is that not only has David already run to the Lord, he fully recognizes the lies of the enemy. Verses 1b all the way through verse 4, you see the litany of lies that the enemy uses. And I think that's a part of discouragement. You and I need to recognize that the enemy, your opposition, your challenges, they'll lie to you. One of the lies will be that you ought to be afraid, and so you ought to run. One lie will be that you have no way out. You are surely going to be defeated. There's no way for you to overcome. You know how these lies work. You might as well quit. In fact, there's nothing good that can come out of this. All the good things that were in it have been destroyed. So you might as well tap out. Those are some of the lies the enemy throws at us. But I love how verse number 4 through 6 is placed in that text. David, I've already run to the Lord. He says, I recognize the lies of the enemy. But then look at number 3. Number 3, I remember God has not moved. God's perspective is such that despite what's going on in the world, he is still settled in heaven. He sees everything. He has our interest in mind. He knows fully what's going on in this world. In fact, David would say that God is not surprised by anything. And here's what's best about it. God has the final judgment on everything. That includes any enemy, any act of hatred, any ill will. Remember this, people of God. God has the final say. We may get frustrated and say, why not now? When we really ought to reframe it and say, he hasn't done it yet. God has final say. But then the fourth thing, in verse number 7, David rejoices in the glory of the moment. We ought to be a people that say, you know what? I don't know how God is going to work this out. I have no idea what you have in mind. I don't understand the full scope of it. I may not see all of what you see, but I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you're on top of things. Rejoice in the Lord like David does. What does this psalm remind us to do? 1, run to the Lord. And if you've run to the Lord, you ought not to run from anything else. But recognize the lies of the enemy. Remember that God has not moved and he has the final say. So rejoice in the love of God. But then I challenge you to live out that love towards your fellow man. Give God your full heart. Give him all of your hope. Give him your trust. And in so doing, God will give you reason, moment by moment, day by day, challenge by challenge, episode by episode, reason to rejoice because God is in complete control. I pray that Psalm 11 blesses you. It certainly blessed me.